Hey, how's it going everybody? Welcome back to Aussie Fish Keeping. So in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at 5 of the best schooling fish that you can get for your aquarium. Now obviously in this hobby there is hundreds and hundreds of different species, some of which do school like the species on this list today, whereas others are more solitary. So for this video, I've picked out 5 of my favorites, and I think they do make the perfect schooling fish for your aquarium. But without any further ado, let's just jump straight into today's video. So as for the first fish on our list, I don't think this is going to come as a surprise to anybody. We have Tetras. So obviously Tetras are a beautiful species of fish. They come in a wide variety of different colors and patterns, and they really do make the perfect schooling fish for your aquarium. So a well-planted tank of around 20 gallons is perfect for these guys. And the reason you want it well planted is because while they do enjoy plenty of open swimming space, they also do like plenty of shelter and coverage where they can hide. So obviously out in the wild, just because they are such a small fish, they are preyed upon quite easily. So having this coverage does definitely help them feel a lot safer and they won't stress out as much. Now to maintain healthy fish, you do want to try and keep the pH at around 6 to 7 and the temperature at around 22 to 26 degrees Celsius. So obviously the reason they are on this list today is because they are a schooling fish and they do best in schools of around 6 fish. Now not only are they an awesome schooling fish, but they are an awesome shoaling fish as well. So what this means is that they pretty much school with other species of fish. So Tetras in particular will a lot of the time school with all sorts of rasboras and barbs in your aquarium. But if you do just want a species only school, then Tetras also make a great fish for that. Now as for tank mates for these guys, they are very small, so nothing too big that's going to eat them, and nothing too small that they can eat. Obviously there is also very small tetras like neon tetras that can't really eat anything that you keep in your aquarium, so you can keep them with shrimp and all sorts of really small fish like that. But then there's also larger tetras like black skirt tetras or black widow tetras that can eat shrimp. So it really just does depend what species you get, and you might need to do a little bit of research, but most of the time Tetras are quite peaceful fish and they shouldn't cause too much havoc in your aquarium. But yeah, I definitely think that Tetras are a great schooling fish and I would highly recommend them for anybody's aquarium. Moving on to the next fish on our list, we have a super cute little fish. We have Corydoras catfish. So obviously Corydoras catfish are a really cool bottom dwelling fish that do tend to stick in schools out in the wild. So to ensure you have super healthy fish, it's always good to keep them in a spacious planted tank with soft substrate. Now the reason for having soft substrate is because if you do have rough gravel or large gravel, sometimes the Corydoras can actually cut or damage their barbels on it. Now barbels are their little whiskers that they use to sense around the tank, so you definitely don't want those to get injured. So having them in a bare bottom tank or a soft sand substrate is generally best, and it just ensures that they don't get injured. Now you're aiming to maintain stable water parameters with a pH of around 6.5 to 7.5 and a temperature again of around 22 to 26 degrees Celsius. Now, giving these guys a really high protein, stable diet is also super vital. So a lot of people think that Corydoras catfish are just a cleaner fish, and this is completely false. Obviously they will go around and pick up all sorts of leftover food and debris in your aquarium, but you definitely also need to give them a nice high protein, stable diet. And what I like to feed mine is things like frozen foods and live blackworms. Now obviously these guys do live in schools, which is why they're on this list today, and they generally do best in a school of around 4 to 5 catfish. Now what's really cool about keeping these guys in schools is that it will promote all sorts of social breeding behavior, so they'll be swimming all up and down the glass and it's just really cool to watch. The final thing you do want to remember when you're keeping these guys is you want to provide them with some sort of cover, just because they can get stressed out, whether it be you just tap the glass or a big fish swims by, something like that. They can get stressed out, and having some nice coverage to go back to and hide is always best for them. But yeah, with that being said, I definitely think that Corydoras catfish make another great schooling fish that you can get for your aquarium. Moving on to the next fish on our list, we have a super cool Australian native. We have rainbow fish. So rainbow fish obviously come in a variety of colors, patterns, and sizes, and they originate in waterways of Australia and New Guinea. So when keeping these guys, it's always important to keep them in a spacious aquarium of at least 30 gallons. Now, the reason for this is because they are an open water swimmer, so they definitely need a lot of swim space. It's not so important that you have cracks and crevices for these guys to hide in, just because they are a pretty big-bodied fish, and a lot of the time they do just like swimming out in that open water. So it's always good to maintain a pH of around 6.5 to 7.5 and a temperature of around 22 to 24 degrees Celsius for these guys. Once again, obviously they are a schooling fish, and you want to try and keep them in a school of at least 5 fish. Now, with this school, you're going to want to make sure you have a couple of males and a couple of females. If you have all males, they won't color up as nicely, and if you have all females, obviously they're not going to color up at all. So having a mix of both sexes is always vital for the males to color up nicely. And a lot of the time you will notice that in the morning the rainbow fish will color up, just generally because that's when they usually breed. So these guys aren't very aggressive at all, although they can be a little bit nippy with other smaller fish with nice long fins like guppies. So I would recommend trying to keep these guys as the main fish in your aquarium, and having some sort of dither fish or some sort of cleaner fish like a bristlenose or corridor's catfish. Another great thing to have these guys on is some sort of light cycle. So having a peak in the light being maybe in the middle of the day and then it decline over the afternoon. This obviously just simulates their environment and makes them much more colorful. But yeah, I definitely think that rainbow fish are another great schooling fish, and I would highly recommend them. Moving on to the next fish on our list, we have a super small little fish. We have the white cloud minnow. So white clouds are a super versatile and hardy little fish, and they generally do best in an aquarium that is around 10 gallons. So it's always best to keep these guys in some sort of peaceful community setting, just because they are very small and they can get bullied by bigger fish. So keeping them with things like cherry shrimp or small catfish, all sorts of things like that, is generally best. Also, it's good to keep these guys in a tank with relatively slow or no flow at all, just because, like I said before, they are a very small fish and they can get pushed around by the current quite easily. So it's generally best to keep them in a still water setup. But with that being said, I definitely think that white cloud minnows are another great fish to keep as a school in your aquarium. Moving on to the next fish on our list, we have barbs. Now obviously there's a wide variety of barbs as well, and you can get all sorts of colors, patterns, and sizes, all of which do school and do definitely make great schooling or shoaling fish. So as for water parameters for the barbs, you do want to keep a pH of around 6.5 to 7.5 and a temperature of around 22 to 24 degrees Celsius. Now barbs can be a little bit more aggressive than tetras and rasboras, and a lot of the time they do nip at fish with long fins, so things like angelfish and guppies. So for that reason, the only other fish you really want to be keeping them with is fish that can hold their own and that can be aggressive back, or fish that just stay out of their way completely, like corridor's catfish or bristlenose. So much like the rainbow fish, these guys do best in schools of around 5 to 6 fish. But within that 5 to 6 fish, you do want to make sure you have a couple of males and a couple of females. So for fish like cherry barbs here behind me, I've got a bunch of babies here. I've just had a spawn and they're looking super good. But anyway, so for fish like cherry barbs, obviously the males get that really bright red coloration and the females stay quite dull. So having maybe 2 males to 3 females, you generally get the males trying to show off to the females, and their brightest colors will then come out. Obviously as well, these guys do best in a planted aquarium, and you want to give them plenty of space to hide. Not only do they use that for shelter and coverage, but also the plants do sort of contrast their colors and it makes their colors pop a lot more. You do want to give these guys a quality diet of some sort of high protein dry food and live foods and frozen foods. All sorts of foods like that that are just super healthy for the fish is also going to promote their coloration, and it's just going to make them a lot happier and healthier. But with that being said, that is going to bring us to the end of today's video. So I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope I helped you guys find a brand new schooling fish for your aquarium. If you did enjoy today's video and you haven't done so already, please make sure to go down and subscribe. And while you're down there, smash the like button. Also, if you can, comment your thoughts on today's video. I always love going down there and reading them all, and I always try to reply back to as many as I can. But yeah, with that being said, thank you all so much for sticking around to the end. I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you all in that next video.